was a beautiful Saturday morning and I was at a campground getting ready to try my lightweight approach to solar e-bike camping. Once I had the idea, it didn't stop nagging me. Could I take my Brompton anywhere on a train, bring enough gear for an overnighter, and do it without having to look for power? How far would it go, and what would it take? The plan was to go 100 kilometers on day 1 and another 60 on day 2, relying on the solar panels and the battery station I had brought. I had traveled there by train the evening before the trip. My equipment was reduced to the bare minimum, so everything fit into 4 bags. I finished breakfast while the power station was topping off, and then I got on the road. All I really had to do was follow the river and enjoy the scenery. I've had the Brompton for a year now, and it's wonderfully agile in Mode 2, and even fully loaded, it's an amazing ride. But for most of the day I stayed in eco mode because it saves a lot of energy. Except of course for the occasional moment when I just wanted to let it flow. I didn't think too much about the battery until I had completed 50 kilometers. When I checked the battery there were only 2 dots left. Really nice, but not enough to go all the way. So I stopped at the first reasonably suitable place for the charging break. It was beautiful. One by one I put the 2 solar panels down. I have 50 watts with one panel. The panels can produce 160 watts together, but the battery will only take 100. That way I made sure I would max out the input a lot more often. Then, most of the energy going into the bike is effectively coming straight from the panels, so the power station drains very slowly, if at all. The Bluetti Elite 10 can supply 200 watts of AC, while the Brompton charger actually draws around 85 watts. Don't be fooled by the display of the Bluetti. The battery is really only a small buffer, and that's why it can be so light. That was the idea anyway, and for now it worked. Panels and battery together weigh only about 5.2 kilos, that's about 11 pounds. I waited patiently until my battery was back to 3 or 4 dots, and then I got back on the road. But even though I was closely following a river, this was definitely not all downhill. %25 increase. The reward was some wonderful downhill sections on the other side, but those climbs also put a noticeable dent in the battery. So I took another break and charged the batteries a little more, and that gave me another dot for the rest of the day. Did I mention that the area was beautiful? I reached the campground at around 6 in the evening with around 2 dots left on the battery. It's mainly a stopping point for canoe trips and sits directly by the water, and there was a wonderful spot looking straight out over the river. I immediately started charging again. And this is where this kind of story often ends. Aligning these folding panels to the sun is quite a challenge, and if they're not aligned right and laying flat on the ground, they don't really charge much in the evening. I had bought a spare tent poles and rearranged them to be simple but effective panel stands. The difference was very well worth it. Instead of leaving the panels flat on the ground, I could point them directly towards the low evening sun. And at 6 in the evening, I was still getting 100 watts. I kept charging until about 8 p.m. The battery wasn't full, but I was confident I had enough energy for a good start the next morning. For dinner, I cheated. It was a Saturday after all, and I had reason to celebrate, so I went to a local Italian restaurant and got myself a schnitzel. This is the only surviving evidence. I slept until 7 and made coffee while I set up the charger. By 8:30 in the morning, I was getting the full 100 watts again. And I also learned that boiling the water before adding the oats makes them much less likely to burn. I enjoyed breakfast until around 10, and by then the Brompton battery was full again. The panels were even producing enough that I could charge some of my other gear directly while still feeding the full 100 watts into the battery system. And then it was time to pack everything up. The large front bag carried the cooking gear and the power station. I had a handlebar bag for the sleeping pad and some food, and a rack pack for the solar panels and the tent. And there was the big seat pack with the quilt, hygiene stuff, and a tiny folding backpack and a rain jacket. A shirt and a soft shell had to go on the outside of the mesh pockets. Water was important because it was going to be a hot day. I had a 2-liter water bag attached to a bottle holder on the fork, plus an 800 milliliter bottle on the handlebar. And I was off again.
This bottle holder just came off. Screws both won't catch anymore. I don't know why. Very reluctant to leave it on there. I'm glad I caught it.
I didn't manage to reattach the bottle holder to the handlebar.
Here's how the water bottles fared. The water was warm. Didn't taste good anymore. And, well, they're not falling off, but I'm gonna pour it.
So instead of the 2.5 to 3 liters of water I had brought, I suddenly had no water at all. And that is when I pushed the button to support mode 2 and just went for the station. I arrived at the station with 2 battery dots left. The journey home should have been the easy part, but it wasn't. The first train had no luggage compartment at all, and on the second train my first class ticket gave me a seat. But the available luggage space was 1 coach away. Bringing a lock and a couple of straps to secure the bike will definitely give you some peace of mind. The part that worked well is that the Brompton still rolls surprisingly well around the station if everything is packed right. And because I brought a tiny folding backpack, I could carry 2 heavy bags together on my back. By the time I finally got home, I had the whole packing routine down to about 7 minutes. Yes, I need a better water setup, I need a better way to cook, and I definitely need to carry a little more food. But as the first attempt at lightweight solar backpacking with a Brompton, I think this worked. And now I'm wondering how far I can take it.